gonna tell you about my favorite houseplants for the month of April and March. I didn't make this video for last month, so it's gonna be a lot of really stick out to me last month, as well as what I feel like I'm kind of carrying over into this month. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and maybe join my YouTube channel memberships if you're having a hard time making friends in the plant community. It only costs $5 a month, and you get so much value out of it. Now, let's get into my favorite plants. So this right here is by far one of my favorite houseplants. This is my massive Hoya Carnosa compacta Varigata. I have had this plant for quite a few months now. I'm not sure exactly how long it has been, but it has probably grown, at least from this strand, another 2 inches since I got it. It was a trade that I did with a local gal. It is, I mean, it is so beautiful. It is so long. It just sits right now on the corner of my IKEA red stuff. Like, look at this. It's so big. I just love how it grows. It's so easy to maintain. It doesn't require a whole lot of watering from you. I would say, if anything, it requires a whole lot of sun. I put my Hoyas in bright, direct light. Some people say not to do that, that their Hoyas die when they do that, but I think that maybe they're just not watering their Hoyas enough. I have to water my Hoyas pretty often, probably actually around once a week to every week and a half. So if you're not, you know, keeping up with your plants, then they will obviously die. I don't have any peduncles on this one yet, but we're hoping for this year. My next favorite plant right now is actually Monstera. And behind me, which you can kind of see, I have this massive Monstera wall. And I mean, I have so much Monstera. All of my plants right now are in the middle of putting out a new leaf, except for the one that I just repotted. Every single one of these plants is putting out a new leaf. One of these Monstera I've been growing for a year and a half now. I got it in 2020. I've had it now all 2021, and it will be our 2-year anniversary on like July 2nd, I think. I adore Monstera. I totally underestimated this plant. It is by far one of my favorite plants to own. I don't actually have any elbow Monstera. To me, I really think I prefer the normal green Monstera. I have found that the elbow Monsteras, they just get really yellow for me really fast. They will kind of like brown, and I think I'm just bad at taking care of them. I've never had that problem with a sport variegated Monstera, which is typically a green on green or maybe even a green on yellow. When it comes to the green on white, I just always had so much of a hard time. Therefore, the massive green Monstera wall. I have I think 7 total Monstera deliciosas. Some of them could be Monstera borzigiana. Borzigiana is the small form. It's the species small form. It is different. But yeah, Monstera deliciosa. I've never gotten mine to flower, but that would be really cool. Another plant on my list for my favorites is actually going to have to be Hoya Pupicalix Splash. This one's like a pink splash. Honestly, I think that all of the Pupicalix splashes can turn pink. So it pretty much just depends on like how much sun you give it. Mine I got from one of my subscribers and members, Ashley Hack, and I actually got it almost exactly a year ago. And I'm pretty sure a year ago it was just in like a bowl, and I was rooting it because it got cold damage, I think, when it came to me. But now it's growing, thriving. We have all of these new shoots sticking up here. It's doing really good. Had this plant for a long time now. Another one of my favorite plants is also Hoya. We have a lot of Hoya on this list. I do really like Hoya. And this is a plant that I actually got last week. So I did not actually have this plant in March, but we did arrange the trade in March, and that is going to be this massive Hoya Matilde. It kind of is a splash, has some splash on it, but I did a trade to get this one with one of my members, Carolina, which you may be seeing a trend. I do trade with my members like a lot. My members and I trade pretty often. And this one actually has a couple peduncles, so we should be able to see this one flower, but it has some really beautiful little round leaves that I think are just so magical. I absolutely adore this plant. I mean, are you kidding? How could you not? I think it looks really cute in this little rain ceramics pot with the little face. So, yep, I can't wait for this one to flower, but I've only had it for about a week. I repotted it. I think it's doing way better. Yeah, I did the first watering cycle. It got dry and pruny, which, you know, means it's time to water. I watered it and it plumped right back up. So I think it's doing really good. This next plant I've also not had for very long, and that is actually going to be the Dendrobium Duel. This is one of my favorite plants. I have seen so many people have this plant, and it's definitely a plant I have wanted for a while. I got one not too long ago that was a rehab and it ended up not making it. I mean, iconic pot, are you kidding me? I also got this one from Carolina. It's just so good. It looks very nice. Like, ma'am, excuse me. But yeah, I've literally only had this one for a week, but this has been a plant I've wanted for a really long time. So it has a special place in my heart. My next favorite plant is actually kind of a weird one. This is my little Cactus Orb. And this plant I really love because it has a couple cactus in it and rocks, and then also a ripsalis. And this plant is just really unusual. I'm calling the whole thing a plant, but it's like a terrarium because it's definitely not something I would ever think to keep. I mean, it looks like a little teeny tiny like wizard ball. And I just thought the set for this was so cool. I mean, like, I had to have it. I believe it was $45, so it was definitely more on the expensive side. But this is something that people, whenever they come to my house, they definitely are drawn to it. They're like, oh my gosh, what is that? And I'm like, it's my little cactus terrarium. I got this at a succulent day, and it's just so cool. It's like a little statement piece. It's something unusual I don't think you'd normally see when you go to someone's house who has a collection. It's just like a nice, fun little thing to have. And it actually does require, I do water this once a week, which might seem like a lot, but I haven't had anything bad happen yet. Little cactus guy. The next plant on my list is actually the Philodendron ilsamanii. This is a particularly inaccessible, hard to find, very hard to find plant. It's one that I think I've sold, I think I've traded 2 of them now, and I've sold 2 of as well. Plant that I will usually prefer to trade with other people. You know, if I feel like I want to jump ahead for rent for the next month, then I'll go ahead and sell a little ilsamanii dude. My plant that I have had since 2020. I've had it for a while. I've gone through a couple iterations of it, and I believe that I got it in like November 2020. So it was right around the time of my birthday. And it was given to me by a subscriber who was watching my channel, and they saw that they could just tell that I just love the plant so much. By far, it has my favorite variegation. I also belong to the Team ilsamanii Facebook group where we're constantly like theorizing and coming up with ideas for how do we get them to grow better, and then coming up with things like, do we think that it's actually chimeric variegation or do we think it's transposon? And I actually presented a theory that I do think it's transposon variegation and not chimeric because the ilsamanii is stable. It's not called the variegated ilsamanii, it's just the ilsamanii. Very fast growers, at least for me, mine grow so fast. I've been able to produce a ton of different ones over the last year and a half.
Plants that have chimeric variegation grow very slow, so the fact that this is a fast grower, the fastest in my collection, Plant Me Ashley, to me, Plant Me Ashley suggests, among other reasons, that it's transposon, a permanent type of variegation that doesn't affect the speed of plants' growth and tends to be more freckled. This is further proved by the fact that ilsamanii can't fully revert. Even a green stem and leaf holds the DNA to produce a pure white leaf. Additionally, the white on the ilsamanii is not the same white as on a Monstera albo. There is no thickness deficit in the white on the ilsamanii, and it will rarely brown or lose its integrity.
The variegation always comes back. It's very, very stable. Even if you get, I think, a couple like kind of green leaves in a row, you'll always kind of just get a white one out of nowhere, which is what has happened to me with my plant. And by eliminating which plants I'm getting rid of and which ones I'm keeping, I've been able to create this really beautiful kind of like white modeled ilsamanii that is like the ilsamanii of my dreams. I definitely like to try to make plants like this more accessible because it's kind of the only way to bring that price point down. But I will admit that the price point is kind of nice when you're trying to pay some bills and you can just cut one of your plants and say, hey guys, please help me pay my rent. Please buy this. And because they're very hard to find, people will buy them, which is definitely very nice. My ilsamanii is currently planted back here in this Rudsta scaped cabinet, which I do have a video on, which I will link in the description for you. But it lives very happily in there. It is loving life. It does get direct sun from the window, from my south-facing window, and it also gets the light that comes from the cabinet, which is mother grow lights. They're full spectrum light. So it gets a lot of light love, and it is just living life. I do fertilize it with liquid earth, and I don't actually monitor the humidity of the cabinet, so I'm not totally sure what that is. But yeah, the ilsamanii is great. It's so fast growing. Everyone I've traded or sold to has like said it is remarkable how fast it grows. But yeah, for some reason it's just not as popular as a Spiritus Sancti or other rare plants, but I think it should be. It is by far my favorite philodendron. 100% hands down. It's just only so low on this list because I like to start out with my common plants and then work my way to my more rare and uncommon ones. Making videos like this is so hard because all the plants I have right now are kind of my favorite plants. I have whittled my collection down so much. Like all of the plants I own are in this room, like everything is in this room, and all of them are my favorite. But I think out of everything I've listed, the only plant left that I pretty much have to show you is actually going to be the Philodendron Strawberry Shake, which is another type of philodendron, kind of similar in price scale, maybe more expensive than the Ilsamanii, which it's very interesting how the Ilsamanii is like one of the actually rarest and hardest plants to get a hold of in the community. I would say it's harder to get a hold of than the Sancti, but it has a lower price point than a lot of other philodendrons, and I think that's just because the people who collect it aren't collecting it for clout, they're collecting it because they actually like the plant. I don't know, I just think it's like an interesting observation. Probably maybe something I should do a deep dive into. But this plant's really cool. It puts out variegation on half of the plant. Like these 3 leaves all have really nice variegation, and then these ones have none. I'm trying to not pour all this pollen out. But this is actually a plant I got in a trade this week. It's very nice. I have had different strawberry shakes for a long time. I absolutely adore shakes. I think that with the right color, they are probably one of my favorite looking plants, philodendron specifically under an Ilsamanii, just because it's such an interesting thing. It just kind of looks like cheesecake. I love the red and pink that kind of works together with the yellow to make it just kind of stand out, and the green is like this nice emerald in there, and I don't know, it's just, I mean, it is just so beautiful. The shakes are amazing. I do have 2 other shakes. One of them is from Botanicas, and one of them is a plant I'm regrowing back in because I recently cut it. And I don't know, I have so many other plants I could tell you guys about. Let me know if you want me to do another one of these videos, but I think that's kind of it for the top favorites of my collection, the plants I kind of stare at every single day. I feel like I kind of count my greenhouse cabinet as one whole plant because it is so amazing. I have a second greenhouse cabinet now too. I converted my paludarium into a plantatorium, which you can watch me do over on youtube.com/streamyashley, which is my streaming channel. But yeah, that's gonna be it for this video. Thank you so much for watching and seeing me talk about my favorite houseplants. I would appreciate it if you liked and subscribed and maybe stayed a while and check out the next video. Also, don't forget to join the YouTube channel memberships. They are only $5 a month, and it really helps you make some new friends, meet some new people in the community if maybe you are newer to the plant community. But other than that, I think I'll just have to see you guys in the next houseplant section. So I'll see you later. Goodbye.
Thank you so much for the extra channel support to Botanicas, Lauren Alexandra, and Kim Klenowski.